Open that up. On this particular recipe, we've got, okay, so this is it. So we're aiming, the alcohol will be 4.5% at the end, IBUs of 20. And when we start fermenting, we should be looking at 1043 as our starting gravity, our original gravity. And we can see how close to that we get as the brew goes on. So the batch size, here we go, 25 litres. That's what we're going to be brewing. And again, it repeats here, original gravity of 1043. So they've just lost the 1.0 off the front, so they just put 43. So we're going to be aiming to brew it and ferment it through until that gravity reading is 8.5. The IBU, that bittering unit, International Bittering Unit, I think that stands for, is 20, so it's not that bitter. It's quite light in colour, sort of average, and we're hoping to get an 80% mash efficiency. So here we go. So this is the ingredients, just 2 types of grain. So we've got 1.01 kilos of best ale malt and just over half a kilo of Cara Gold. So the yeast is this strain, Lallemand Windsor. We've got that. Yes, there we go. So that's the yeast, comes in a little sachet like this. And so after the yeast, but we don't need that until the end. So these are the hops that we've got. We've got 16 grams of Willamette hops. And we add that, so this addition column, so we add that at the start of the boil. So we add all of those in at the start of the boil. And then we add 16 grams of Challenger hops, and we add those in the middle of the boil. So our boil time, if we come up here, 60 minutes. Our mash time is 60 minutes, so that's quite easy, 60 and 60. Sometimes they vary, sometimes they're 90, sometimes they're even 2 hours, but it's just an hour of mash and an hour of boil. So this second hop addition, these Challengers go in after 30 minutes of boiling, and they stay in there for the last 30 minutes. And then we add another 15 grams of hops, the same hops, Challenger, but we do that at flame out. So flame out means when we turn off the boiler. So that's right at the end of the boil, and just as everything's cooling down, we add in the flame out hops, and those become the aroma hops, really, the ones that give it that nice kind of smell. We've also got one little flocculation tablet, and we put that in at 10 minutes to go, and that helps to just drop out a lot of the proteins that we don't want to go into our fermenter. So I like to try and lay things out in the order that we're going to do them. So we've got our recipe, so we've got our malt, so that goes in right at the beginning, and then once we've done the mash and sparging and we're in for the boil, when it starts the boil, we add this hop addition, the first one, the boil hops, the full boil hops, then our middle addition hops after 30 minutes, and then the flame out hops right at the end with our little flocculation tablet for the last 10 minutes. So here's our brewer. Here's our single unit that does everything. Little control panel at the bottom, power switches to turn it on and turn the pump on. We've got a sight glass at the side so we can read the levels to see how much liquid there is in there. And we've got a recirculation tube which comes from the pump, and then liquid can come through here, and we put a little arm on the top to put it back in, and we'll look at that in a minute. Right, so the inside, here we go, looks nice, doesn't it? Beautiful. It has the hop basket, the handle, and we just put one end of the handle in there, and we put the other end of the handle in that hole over there, and then we can lift it out. So it's quite light. And what you can see is on the sides there are a couple of little latches, and that allows it to stop part way up, and we'll look at that in a moment when we're sparging. So what I'm going to do now is fill it with some sanitizing liquid and then pump it around everywhere and give everything a good wash before we start. So I made up about, I don't know, 10-15 litres of this sanitising liquid, and it's just there. I'm just going to pour it into the Brewster. I'll do it on the floor, and then I'll put it back up on the bench and we'll circulate it around. We'll start with the bottom filter. So that's this thing, and you can see it's got like a little ring pull on the bottom of it that allows you to lift it up when it's finished. So that goes in first, and that goes right to the bottom. So we've got two filters like this. This is the top one with these little pegs that allow you to pick it up when you need to. Another one here, the telescopic overflow tube. So you just take that big nut off the bottom and fit that into there. Now this one, there is a lip here, and we're going to fit it with the lip pointing upwards. So this goes in. You just have to avoid the lug. And you slide it down. Like that. And then we can put the bottom filter in. Like that. And then we'll just slide the top filter in. Down the recirculation pipe. It'll only go so far. Recirculation arm. So this goes on to the top of this pipe that we saw earlier on, the recirculation pipe. So we'll turn to the on position and we'll turn the pump on. So that's this button here. There we go. And there we go. You can see a load of liquid coming out of the pump. So all I'm going to do is just spread it around, make sure everywhere has been nicely sanitised. And now that we've finished rinsing everything in there and it's all sanitised, we can just pump it back out into the bucket because we can use that same liquid for other things. So, now the nice thing about this stuff is you don't have to rinse it afterwards. It leaves no taste. There's no pollutants in it or anything like that. It just sanitises everything. And my cellar is just not geared up for loads of steam. So that's the first bit that goes. So that should slide all the way down. That's it, with a nice reassuring clonk. Okay, so that's all the liquid in. You can kind of see it there. But the nice thing is, with your sight glass on the outside, you can see 15, 16, 17, 18 litres. So now we're ready to heat that up and get it to what's called the strike temperature. So let's program that in. So we're going to do it on a manual. So press manual. So we have to set three things. We have to set power. So power, we want it full power because we're trying to get the water up to as hot as we can. So the temperature is 66. I think our whoops, wrong thing, sorry. So we want full power. Now we press temperature and the temperature starts to flash. We'll come down to 66 there, and the timer 60 minutes is all set. So now we just press start, and there we go. Once the H is flashing, we know it's running. There we go. So we're up to temperature. There's just this little plug thing here, and we'll just put it in there. It doesn't need to be quite so hot anyway, and it just stops any of the grain going down inside. So we're going to just pour it and get it nice and even, and when we've done a bit, we'll give it a stir with the paddle. So I'm going to take my nice sanitised paddle and just give it a really good stir. Paddle in. We have to take the bung off now. Now what we want to do is drop this down so it's about 2 inches above the level of the grain. Now we need the lid back on. We need our recirculation tube in here. So it sits like that. I'm going to open the valve. I'll open it fully to start with. I'm just going to start the pump. There we go. Hopefully you can see the liquid coming in. You can see the liquid going through. And over the course of our hour of mashing, that will go quite clear. A nice clear liquid on the top. That looks absolutely lovely. And we're halfway through, so it should get even clearer than that by the end. So while we're waiting for this, something else I probably should have mentioned, I am now heating up the sparge water. So up here on this little, in my old boiler, so that's what I used to do my brewing in there, it's just water. So now it's bleeping, we've got to the end of the mash. So what we've got to do is lift the grain basket, but in order to do that, we've got to take the lid off. So keep all that liquor in there. Look how beautiful that is. Oh man. Turn off the pump. Look at that. Honestly, that is glorious. It looks great to me. Beautifully clear, exactly what we want. So now what we're going to do is lift this grain basket halfway up and stand it on its little hooks so that it can drain it. Sorry. It's not so heavy now because most of the water's drained away. And that is it sitting on its top level. And now we can lift off the top screen. Now we're going to fit a sparge arm, so that will just sit across the middle here like that, sort of in the centre. That'll be fine. And I'll turn the tap on. There we go. We want to get enough coming through to spin that arm. Tip it like we're doing. Right, well, I think that might be the end of it. And where are we up to? We're up to, oh, we're almost up to 30 litres anyway. So I think by the time that's drained through, that'll be perfect. So yeah, we're now just waiting for it to boil. So there you go, that's sparging. And as I say, we'll just lift that out in a moment and we'll put the lid on and let it boil. So next job, now we've got a rousing boil, we're going to add the hop spider. Now these actually come in little bags, like little tea bags. They don't really need a hop spider, but we're going to use it anyway. We'll just drop them in there. And they'll soak through and boil for us. This is what you want. This is a proper rolling boil. So rousing, it's got to be moving, it's got to be turbulent. And so we've boiled off about nearly 2.5 litres. I'd like to get it down to around about 28 litres. So I didn't video that bit, but just the last 10 minutes of the boil, I lifted the hop spider and I put the chiller in. So it just gets 10 minutes in there to just be completely sanitised. And then we'll connect the cold water onto one end and drain out of the other, and that will start to chill. There we go, end of the boil. It's going bing, bing, bong, bing. So we're putting our flame out hops in the third little bag. I'm going to drop those in there, and I'll get the spoon, give them a stir. Just get them in there to soak so that they're in there all mixed up. So those are our aroma hops. Those are the ones that are going to make it smell nice. Out of it, and it should go up, and then it should start to come out the tap at the bottom. And you can see it's steaming coming out of there. That's pretty warm actually. It's almost untouchable. Actually, look at that. That is untouchably hot now. and suddenly the temperature starting to fall. The other thing is, once we get to 80, as we've got now, we can turn the pump on and we can start the whirlpool, and that will start to slowly. So I'm going to open the tap here, and I've got the whirlpool arm in fitted already, and that will start to rotate. Here we go. That will start to rotate and just generate a slow whirlpool in here. I'm going to close it down a little bit because that seems a bit vigorous, and it should just go round and round, and then that helps this to settle out. And now the last little part, which is pumping out. So I'm leaving everything in. I've left my hops in, I've left the chiller in place. It's all stopped, it's all settled out as much as it's going to. And I've just, what is it, at 22 degrees, 21.8 degrees, something like that. And I'm just running the pump, and it's collecting into my fermenter, which is here. And I've just opened that only a little bit. It's almost shut. It's just gently pumping out. I'm hoping to leave as much of that trub at the bottom on the screen, and yeah, should be good. Now it's really clear here. You can see the stuff that's collecting at the bottom. All of that from the boil. We want to leave all of that behind.